Relative happiness is when you know that better exists, but you're going to be choose to be content in the moment. Good day, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Monday Morning Moments with Mark. I hope this finds you well. So, this week we have a relatively short episode, which will make a lot of my viewers very happy. But more on relative happiness here in a few minutes. First, we always have to start with the funniest thing. And the funniest thing that happened this week actually was last weekend. And we were at the Orlando Guardians game, and there's this guy comes around. He's wearing a lab coat, and the older gentleman kind of actually looks like a doctor, and he's wearing a lab coat. And he's got these syringes that have, I guess, Jello shots in them. And he's walking around offering them to everybody. He has tons of these things. And he comes down to where we are, and he's like, "Hey, you guys want?" I was like, "No, we're good, man. Thanks." And he's like, "You sure?" I'm like, "No, I'm pretty positive." He's like, "Okay, all right." He goes on his merry way, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, actually, I said it, I was like, I'm trying to make it a habit in my life to not take unknown substances from strangers in parking lots at this point in life. So, anyways, he actually came back the next week and was there again without his lab coat. But, anyways, it was just a funny moment. It made me relatively happy to laugh about at that point. So let's talk about relative happiness. This topic this week came from two different conversations that I had. One was actually at the tailgate at the game this past weekend, where there was this group of ladies that had never been there before, and they come walking by. They thought they were going to have to walk the long way and go through an open gate down there, and we were parked right next to a spot where we know you can go through this gate that looks closed, but like you can walk through it. They weren't sure, so we told them. And as they were getting ready to walk away, Josh goes to yell at them, "Oh, you can move the barricade around." I said, "They don't care about that. Their relative happiness is they don't have to walk the long way in the baking sun right now. Let them have their moment. They're very happy." So that was, relative to where they were, the situation that they thought they were in, to what they had now. They were happy, even though, knowing that they could have moved the barricade instead of walked around it would have made it an even better experience. Let them be happy in the moment. They're relatively more happy than they were. The second one comes from a different conversation I had with another friend of mine, and she was experiencing what I call values incongruence, conflict, where something that, like a joy that she wanted to experience, she could not convey to another group of people, like the importance of the moment, because the moment had been deprived of her previously. So she understood what it was like to live without it, where the group of people that she was trying to convey it to, they were living in more of an ignorance is bliss situation, where they had no idea what that means, but because she had lived without it, she understood the complexity of it, and it was very much, harped on her personal values. So her relative happiness was to achieve this was significantly greater than someone else's, and she couldn't, or was kind of, we talked about the struggle that happens with that when one person, you're just operating on a different values level, and what something means to you is totally different. So let me back up a little bit and explain how relative happiness is different than ignorance is bliss. In the case, well, really in both cases. So both of the scenarios I gave, where the people were, or one part of the people were unaware that better was an option. They just knew, okay, there's this way, and that's great, and that's lovely. It's kind of like if you didn't know that Disney World existed, you never heard of this, you never been there, you never seen it, you don't know anything about it. But all you ever experienced in your life is Chuck E. Cheese or Showbiz Pizza if you're old school like me. Showing my age a little bit there, but that's all right. If all you know is Chuck E. Cheese, then that's great. You love it. You go to Chuck E. Cheese is the best thing ever. And but until you've experienced Disney, and don't get me wrong, I had a hell of a lot of fun at Chuck E. Cheese in my life. But I can definitively say that I've had far more fun in my life at Disney World now that I've gone there and experienced that. But having not known that, if all you don't know, then that's ignorance. I don't know better exists, so I'm good. Relative happiness is when you know that better exists, but you're going to be choose to be content in the moment, and it doesn't allow, when you make that choice, then you know that, it doesn't give you a sense of longing or jealousy. It doesn't allow any of that to come in, because you know that yes, better may exist out there, but right now this is what's of importance to me, and this is the maximum capacity that I have to obtain joy. So as long as you're maximizing joy and it's in the pursuit of living your values, which they kind of go hand in hand, that's a whole nother conversation. But the values that you get or place on the experience is what makes it worth it to you, and it's what allows you to maximize the joy. Understanding that growth is a process, and yeah, better may be an option. You may not even want to get to better at a later date in time, as long as you're continuing to maximize joy where you're at. Now, on the flip side, if what you're doing sucks, then yeah, you want to switch things up a little bit. But if you're being able to maximize joy, then you can grow towards that better, and you remain relatively happy where you are, based on, or rather than trying to overexert yourself or overextend yourself to get to here. Be happy in the moment. Understand your capacity, understand your ability to grow over time, and kind of like live where you are, bloom where you're planted kind of concept. A little bit similar to that idea, but it's more of a conscious choice where you're developing it to what you want it to be. Rather than just accepting the circumstances around you and assimilating to them, you're actually creating it with your own actions and intentions. So this conversation has gotten deeper than I want it to be. I want to keep it light and make sure everybody remains relatively happy this week. So take some time, reflect on different areas of your life where you can, things that you may be overextending, where you might want to rein some things back in and exercise your relative happiness where you are rather than where you could be or where you have been in the past. Thanks. Have a great week.